Hey YouTube, it's me, Udoka. Happy Sunday. I have been thoroughly obsessed about the Disney Plus Hamilton, and I want to respond to As Told by Kenya. If you don't know who she is a commentary channel, and I'm thinking that maybe my channel is also going to be commentary, but this is a response to her because she is a fan of Aaron Burr in the musical. I am a fan of Hamilton, and I just want to respond to some of her criticisms. I do want to note I've never been a theater kid. I've never been in a musical production, but I've always wished that I could have been one. And now I think it's fair to say I am like a theater kid. When I like something, I get very obsessed about that thing, like ridiculously obsessed about that thing for a period of time. And I thought I was just weird like that. But this whole Hamilton fandom has made me see that no, there's a whole bunch of people who are exactly like that, and we're called theater geeks. But I'm gonna respond to Kenya. She is of the belief that Alexander Hamilton is basically evil, like basically a bad person. Um, and I disagree because I understand Hamilton. I identify with Hamilton, and I understand how his mind works. So I'm gonna do hers at 2 times speed because it's pretty long.
Hi, you guys. Welcome back to my channel. I really haven't had anything. I just really want to talk to you guys about. I just haven't had like. Oh. You probably shouldn't go over there, Molly. I do come on private every now and then about Amanda.
So
I am going to discuss the characters because at the end of the day,
talking about the characters of Hamilton. So I do want to say I've never seen Hamilton live. In fact, I didn't even know I would like Hamilton. I remember a few years ago they would perform on like late night shows and stuff like that, and they would perform the Alexander Hamilton, and it was just so boring to me. I was like, this musical looks boring. Like, I wonder what part of it is interesting. I really wish instead if they had done wanna be in the room where it happens, if they did that song on Jimmy Kimmel Live or whatever I watched it, I would have been very intrigued. But I watched it because it was on Disney Plus and somebody recommended it to me, and now I'm completely obsessed.
A play that I thoroughly enjoyed, it not for the characters being so good. Like, you think I care about Alexander Hamilton? Not really. Definitely don't care about Thomas Jefferson. But it's the fact that these people who play these characters play it so well, and it's so good. So I went into it.
Yeah, the actors do play it very well.
I never give disclaimers, but I am.
And I always thought I found it just so interesting that because all of these people, they own slaves. Actually, I don't think Alexander Hamilton owned slaves, but his father-in-law did own slaves, and he was helping his father-in-law manage his books and manage his property, which includes managing the slaves. So all of these people were in some shape, form, fashion having slaves, and I found it like so interesting and kind of cathartic that the actors were, people of color, people who probably are partially black or are clearly black. I like that. Some people actually criticize Hamilton for that, but I see it as a positive thing, whereas some people feel like it's problematic that it's being performed on black bodies. But I like it. It's like a twist of fate to me.
I'm gonna give a disclaimer today. If you are one of those people who have a hot take that black people shouldn't watch Hamilton, you shouldn't enjoy Hamilton, and Hamilton is revisionist, I don't care. Like, I'm on my 7, 8 rewatch. Like, the damage has been done, love. The damage has been done, love. I can't take it back. I can't take it back. You want my firstborn? I don't know. They don't talk about slavery, even though they talk about slavery. But give me all in the comments, because I don't care. I probably won't. Wrote down a favorite and least favorite. Hi, I 100% love Burr. Burr is probably my favorite character. No.
She 100% loves Burr. I can see that Burr is the type of personality that I personally I'm not down for. And when I was younger, it would be very, very difficult for me to understand somebody like Burr. Like, I just could not. Well, now I better understand, but even as late as last year, I couldn't understand how you could believe in something and not stand for it. You know, I couldn't understand people who keep, you know, everything close to their chest and don't speak out for what they think is right. I was so against that type of personality and living in the world. I was so against it. And I really like how the musical, I think Alexander's personality is the type of personality that you either love it or you hate it. And it humanizes him. And Burr's personality is also, you love it or you hate it, and it humanizes them, and they're like a yin and yang. So I do like that. I do like Burr. I have sympathy for Burr, but I like Alexander much more.
I understand Burr. See, they want Burr to be the antagonist. They want Burr to be the villain, and it's not going to happen. Not on my watch.
Honestly, I don't feel like Burr was the villain. I feel like Thomas Jefferson was the villain. I feel like Burr is I don't know the technical term, but like the opposite of the protagonist, and it's like a foil to the protagonist, but he's not the villain. I think Thomas Jefferson is painted as the villain. The way Thomas Jefferson conducts himself, and like there's just so much about Thomas Jefferson in the play and also in real life that just makes him an obvious villain.
Burr going to be the villain of this story. I'm not going to allow. Burr had every right to challenge that idiot to a duel. He had every right to challenge.
Absolutely, Burr had every right to challenge Hamilton to a duel.
The minute they met, he was playing in Burr's face. Because can we go back to Aaron Burr, sir? Can we go back to that when Hamilton introduces himself to Aaron Burr, saying he wants to be like Aaron Burr? You don't even know me like that. I give you up.
Okay, so she talks about how Alexander has been playing with Burr since the moment they met. Here's what happened, because Alexander comes in and he's like, Burr, I want to be like you. And then Burr basically shares with Alexander his life philosophy. Talk less, smile more. And Alexander's like, really? And then when the guys are chopping it up in the bar, and they're like, hey, Burr, drop some knowledge. And Burr's basically like, hey, y'all can keep talking your mouth off. I'ma just sit and chill, and implies that he's going to get further ahead because he's not yapping. And Hamilton says, if you stand for nothing, Burr, what'll you fall for? And Kenya is saying that's disrespectful. I don't think it's disrespectful, because Burr has shown that that's who he is. You know, like he said it to him when they first met, and now he's also saying it again, you know, at the bar. Like, he has shown who he is. I agree with Alex, and obviously Hercules, Lafayette, and Lawrence agree with Alex. Like, dude, if you are going to just sit on the sidelines, you'll probably fall for anything. So I agree. I don't think it's disrespect. I mean, it's kind of disrespectful. They did just meet, so that was very forward of Alex. But that's also kind of another reason why I like him.
And now you're telling me where you stand for nothing. What will you fall for? Please, when I tell you Hamilton was trying it and acting too long for all of this stuff. If you waited and was confiding in him or whatever. And here's the thing, Burr really didn't like Hamilton all that.
I think it's funny. She's like, Burr waited too long to kill Alexander. I mean, you're not like. There's people in life who are just in your life and you guys kind of annoy each other. You're not gonna get all upset. I mean, they're annoying. There's people in your life that, you know, they're just annoying, but they're your colleague. You've been through a lot together. You have people like that in your life. So I don't think he waited too long.
He showed up to his wedding because he's like, I guess, like, I had nothing else to do on this Saturday night.
Yeah, he showed up to the wedding. They're I don't know how to use the term friend. I mean, the way you use the term friend is loose. It's not like they're best friends. Like, obviously not to the level that he was friends with Lafayette, and Lorenz, but they were like acquaintances, friends, friendly. Like they know each other, pretty well. Like their life just constantly parallels each other. Like they're just always there in each other's lives.
Yes, I sure. So this
And so for me personally, somebody like that, I would frenemy. That's the term. They're frenemies.
idea that Hamilton has it in his
So
head
that's why
that
he was
Burr
at the
is my best
wedding.
friend. I'm just a friend, Whale. I don't really like you. Like, you came for me before I really came for you, and then you expect us to be friends. And then on top of
They're
that,
not friends, they're
he wants the
frenemies.
Revolutionary War. And then he wants Burr to help him write the Federalist Papers about the Constitution. The Constitution that don't give black people rights. Burr.
Okay, so she's talking about how, Hamilton looks silly trying to defend the Constitution that talks about freedom, and yet we still have slavery. And it's hard for me. I'm not a historian, I don't specialize in it. It's hard for me to really understand how was the topic of slavery really seen and discussed. And it's kind of like it was something that it just seemed impervious. It just seemed like it was everywhere. You couldn't avoid it. And people felt so strongly one way or the other. And it's just one of those things that half the people felt like was super important. But it seems like there are more important things that we have to decide right now. And we need these people who super much want slavery to stay intact. We have to come to agreement with those people. So, I mean, what can you do? What can you do? I feel like there's only so much that could have been done short of having a war, which did eventually friggin' happen. How many, a couple of decades later, a war did happen. But in the very least, at least there was a country that to have a war. So I don't know. I'm conflicted, That's the thing about history and life. Life doesn't discriminate between the sinners and the saints. It takes and it takes and takes, and we keep living anyway. But Burr didn't really care about slavery. Okay. I think he found it ironic and kind of comical that the Constitution talks of freedom and liberty and signed by people who own a heck of a lot of slaves. I'm sure he thought that was funny, but he wasn't really an abolitionist. He didn't seem to care either way, which is part of why Alexander Hamilton doesn't like Burr. It seems like he doesn't care either way about a lot of things. So how can you really help the Union?
Burr had feelings. Burr had feelings. Burr had feelings. Hamilton did not care about Burr's feelings. And so what I am here to say is Burr's misunderstood. I'm here to say...
Yeah, Alexander didn't care about Burr's feelings. I get that. I'm like one of those people. I'm one of those people who I care less about how you feel and more about just getting the job done. And I like working with people with that same sentiment. But what I've found as I've gotten older is you need to start caring about people's feelings in addition to getting the job done. And actually caring about people's feelings can help get the job done. But when I was younger, I didn't know. I didn't see the correlation. I just thought, can you get your head out of your behind? We need to ratify this Constitution, like right now.
That Burr is misunderstood. And when he shoots Hamilton, I believe he had every right. I believe he had every right. Because here's the thing. If he's supposed to know that Burr even was just as...
Okay, the duel thing, she's talking about how was Burr supposed to know that Hamilton wasn't going to shoot. It's kind of explained in the musical, and also we know if you do research on dueling, the culture of dueling, it's meant to you're not supposed to die in a duel. Like, a duel is not typically going to end in death, and if it does, it's a very drastic thing. That's why Burr went to court for murder. Okay, like, it's a very drastic thing. And honorable men don't take deadly aim. Now, in the play, Burr says, I really think he's going to take deadly aim. I need to protect myself or my daughter. I get that. I do. I get it. That is how Burr thinks about life. He thinks about his life in a what is best for me type of thinking. Alexander, he is very ambitious, and he does think about what's best for me, but more than that, he's thinking about the reason why he wants what's best for him is so he can have power, so he can enact change in the world. And he has his beliefs very out there, so everybody knows what he's doing. That's very different than, I'm just looking out for me and my kid. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm just doing literally whatever helps me and my kid get ahead. Those are two different things. Of course, Burr is not going to aim for the sky. Of course, he's going to actually shoot Alexander, because that is just how Burr thinks and processes the world. Alexander would not do that. If Alexander really thought Burr would take deadly aim, there's nothing Burr could do or say to make Alexander take deadly aim, because Alexander, he lives life based on principles, and he takes those principles seriously. Obviously, cheating on your wife is not one of the principles, but he takes the principles that he deems serious, he takes it seriously. And he even, he accepted that if Burr shoots me and kills me, I'm prepared for that. And also his career will be over. Essentially, that is what happened. Burr's career never recovered. How are you a gentleman of high society and you're killing your colleague in a duel? And your colleague shot at this guy. You're trash. Bye-bye. Get out of here, okay? Burr's career never ever recovered, and it's so funny because I feel like Burr just felt like, I don't remember if this was in the play or I read it somewhere, but Burr was just like, it's like you exist to keep me from winning. And Hamilton's like, yeah. Hamilton wrote in a letter, I find it my religious duty. It's my religious duty to prevent you from attaining any power. And in the end, Hamilton did exactly that. So Burr killed Hamilton, but that didn't stop Hamilton's quest of preventing Burr from advancing politically. In fact, killing Hamilton did the very thing. You did more work to end your career than Hamilton could ever do alive. I think that's funny.
When he said no, because Hamilton was selfish. See, Hamilton knew Burr, his Burr family. Hamilton was an asshole. But I'm going to go down the Aaron Burr, sir, that he wants to free the slaves. He wants to free the slaves. He wants the slaves to fight in the revolution. And he wants to get them freedom, because that's really the only way. He can't get them freedom because there's a bunch of racist people running around him. There's a bunch of racist people running around him. Not only that, Hamilton helps him write letters on slavery, right? So I'm thinking we're friends.
Okay, so she's talking about how Hamilton doesn't care about other people. He's not a good friend. Lawrence dies. He doesn't fight for slavery, to end slavery. Lafayette needs help with France. Hamilton doesn't want to spend the money and resources to help them. He felt like the country was too fragile. Listen, again, Hamilton is I care less about how you feel and more about getting the job done. And I understand that sentiment. I understand it. I can't justify it to you. It just makes sense to me. It just makes sense to me. I mean, it just makes sense to me. It just makes sense to me. But the other thing is, I did always find it funny because You know how when Hamilton was young, they collected funds to send him to the colonies. And the idea was that, you're going to go to school, become a doctor or whatever, come back to the West Indies and, improve society here. And he never went back. I just think that's kind of funny. Like, I was just like, did Hamilton really just take everybody's money and leave and just live his own life? Like, you don't just give a random kid money for no, like, surely they were expecting him to come back at some point. And okay, nothing. Okay, just checking, just wondering.
So I thought. So I'm fighting in this war, trying to. And Kenya comes in thinking, wow, this is going to give Hamilton the passion to free the. You then go on a journey to try to defend the Constitution, which gives slaves no right.
Well, so she's saying Loren's death should have given Hamilton the passion to fight slavery. What it did do was it gave him the passion to outwork everyone. I think Hamilton has an issue with grieving. And he experienced so much grief in his youth and trauma that I can see that. I can see how he just feels like becoming a workaholic in writing. That's kind of his way to avoid his feelings and emotions. And that's why he works so much. So what Loren's death did for Hamilton was it spurred an incessant need to work. I don't know how much of that work included abolitionist rhetoric. I don't know. But I do know he was dead set on making sure that the United States of America had a strong governmental foundation. And if you think about it, if it wasn't for Hamilton advocating for a strong central government, we wouldn't have been able to free the slaves later on, a few decades later. A few decades? Like a century later. I don't know.
Can we go back to Aaron Burr saying, I'm not helping you with that? No one knows why Aaron Burr said no. Aaron Burr was tired of Hamilton from the beginning, as he should have been. But I want to point out that the man who you claim to be your homie, whose mission it was to what he wanted for people as well. But do you hear how everyone is telling Hamilton dreams, and Hamilton is doing everything in his power to make none of them?
Okay, so the Reynolds pamphlet. Have you read this? I think everyone can agree the Reynolds pamphlet was not a smart idea at all. I understand why he did it. I understand that, again, he cares less about how you feel and more about defending the principle of something he sees important. And the idea that he could be accused of stealing government funds and have that in any shape or form be a part of his legacy, that was so much worse to him than publicly embarrassing his family. Like he could live with his history being that he was a cheater and a public embarrassment. He could live with that, but he can't live with, well, some suspecting. He couldn't live with that. That to him was sullying his good name. Cheating was not sullying his good name. That's how he saw it. Poor Eliza. Yeah, poor Eliza. That was embarrassing. That's horrible. I mean, that's embarrassing. And I agree with Kenya. He wrote it in detail. Now, Kenya's like, he did this because he's evil. Alexander Hamilton is not evil. He just thinks in a way that's different than you. He wrote in detail. Number one, he is very cocky and arrogant about his writing. And anything that he writes must be, okay? I don't know the word, but anything he writes has to be that way. And then also the details make it like, this is so embarrassing. Like, no one is going to say the stuff unless it really happened. And it was a way to just say, listen, there's just no, just forget about the whole using government funds. That's not it. Okay. If that was it, would I really put out all these pages about my mistress? So that's why he did that. I mean, there was no George Washington anymore. George Washington was the one who really helped Hamilton see reason and calm down. Hamilton is kind of impulsive. I relate. George Washington's dead, so there's no one that Hamilton looks up to and listens to that would have stopped him.
In the entire world that you had this woman in my bed. I love the life for that. Burr, Hamlet was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. Why would you do that to your wife? Now, let's forget the fact that you're in love with her sister. You're in love with her sister. And then let's forget the fact that you're cheating on her.
Alexander, Angelica.
Now let's go into the...
Yeah, that whole thing with the sister, it's interesting. It kind of sounds like something you'd see on RedTube.
Third embarrassment. That you would put a pamphlet out so the Peanuts gallery can have something to say about...
Yeah, I agree.
What did you gain by doing the details? What did you gain by doing Burr, Jefferson, and that not have to make sense?
But Kenya, I hope you understand what he thought he gained by putting the details. I'm not saying that it's not stupid, but it's not due to evilness.
In your bed, what was gained? Can someone tell me what is that honor? It's so funny how you maybe should have cleared his bed from that bitch. That's what he should have done. That's what he... What? Are you copying what I'm pasting? Like, do you really see where Hamilton is the villain here? Because if you haven't, let's get on Philip. Let's get on Philip. So we have a man who's...
Oh, Philip. So I don't like how he dealt with Philip, because Philip is the one that asked for the duel. I think Hamilton did not give him the best advice. I mean, all he told his son was shoot at the sky. I mean, he did not give good advice.
No problem with you. Out about your family.
Sometimes I think Hamilton thinks too good of people. Like, he really thought that Ecker guy was going to be a gentleman and also shoot at the sky. That's why he told his son that. Just dumb. And also, it's heartbreaking that Eliza had no idea that was going on. I don't know if back then men dueled and just did not tell their wives about it. I don't know if that was the thing.
So Philip decides, hey, we're gonna have to go somewhere. It's like, okay, you can die. It's not really like the baby. So I don't know why you came to him. I don't know why you came to him. But at that point, where this man seems like he's going to shoot you, please shoot him back. That was casual. You know, I put out a pamphlet about me. It's okay. We don't handle our situations like that's what a father would say. That's what a father did not do. You did not have on here. In what world is that advice? In what world is that advice? Not to go. The better advice be not to go. You're literally telling yourself, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Dueling run. Philip goes to the dueling run. And of course, in a theory, that's how you duel, honey. That's how you duel. When you don't know the person you duel with, you ain't one ain't. They're gonna be mad in hell. But I'm gonna be alive. I'm going to be alive. That's in the air and dies. Because what else do you expect? Family tell his son to shoot air. He see the lives that Hamilton is ruining.
So she's saying that Hamilton ruins everybody in his life's life. I mean, yes, Alexander, cocky, arrogant, all of those things are true. And he vets for Thomas Jefferson because, listen, Kenya doesn't understand how important this idea is to us, that if you're going to lead a country and change the world, you have to stand for something. If you don't stand for something, it means you can be bought, you can be bribed, you can be put your own self-interest as a priority. It means that you are governed by your own desires rather than being governed by what you think is right, and that everybody can see that's what Thomas Jefferson thinks is right. That's what Hamilton thinks is right. So what he's doing makes sense for that. And you can openly disagree. I openly disagree with you, Jefferson. I openly disagree with you, Hamilton. But if you don't stand for anything, no one can disagree with you. And that means nobody knows what the heck you're doing. And if nobody knows what you're doing, it means that you can't be trusted. And again, Hamilton cares more about the principle of things than he cares about your feelings. So I understand why Burr challenged him to a duel. I mean, Hamilton has been disrespecting Burr his whole life. And it's been because A, he was being cocky in the moment, or B, he just fundamentally disagrees with the way Burr takes a stance on things. And Burr's interpreting that as disrespect. And Burr feels like, Hamilton, why can't you understand the way I'm doing things? The way you're doing things is going to get you dead. And it did get him dead. But also, the way that Burr did things, man, Burr didn't really contribute as much. And it means that Burr didn't go as far as he wanted to. Burr never really got to be in the room where it happens. So both of them, I think both of them have their flaws, and both of them have their strengths that we could learn from. But in the end, number one, I'm happy that Alexander died in a way that he could be okay with. Like, I died making sure that frigging guy doesn't get into power and standing up for what I believe in. I dig it. I can dig it. Also, I think it's incredible that Eliza outlived all of the founding fathers and she got to tell their story. And at the end, I love how in the play she got to see that she had done enough. She wondered, am I doing enough? Did I do enough? She got to see she did enough. And the whole world got to see her story. I think that was cool. So I loved Hamilton.
Wait, only?
Let me see if there's anything else she mentions.
The wordplay in Burr alone, the wordplay in Burr.
Yeah, so now she's talking about her favorite song. So, yeah, I love Hamilton. It has sparked a huge interest in U.S. history for me. It has made that time and era come alive for me because I feel like, I don't know, I've always just felt like if something's over 100 years old, 200 years old, I just felt like times were so different back then. But it really wasn't. Like, girls were getting married in their early 20s. They were having babies around 23, 24. Very similar to now. I mean, maybe now people are pushing it. Like, okay, people are pushing and waiting till they're older, and it's only because we need more money. If the economy was doing really well, people would be having kids, early 20s, getting married early 20s. Like, everything was the same. Like, you're expected to have a wife and not cheat. Like all the things and ways of being that we have and do and are now, they were like that in 1900, 1800, 1700, 1600. I don't know why I just equate like the 1700s to like being the same thing as ancient Greece, which is like BC, like a couple of millennia back. I don't know why I saw it that way. But no, really, society today is very much like how society was in the 1700s. And knowing that and feeling that makes me feel like, it just makes me feel like the decisions we make today, take them a little bit more seriously and look at history and think about, has this worked? Does this have a track record? Does this idea that I have a track record of working or a track record of not working? Knowing that you can't use the excuse of it was a different time. Times really were not that different. It really wasn't that different. So if it didn't work back then, and then it didn't work 100 years later, and another 100 years later, it's probably not going to work today. People are still people. And in 2020, people are behaving like we still need to toss tea into the ocean and dress up like Native Americans. So I loved Hamilton, and I'm a theater geek, theater kid, and now I'm like really into U.S. history and government and politics. And thanks for watching. Bye.